Hey, what's going on everyone? Greg here with RC Driver, and I am very excited to see another Losi vehicle here at the RC Driver workshop. Yep, last week I got an email notification that a box was coming from Horizon Hobby. Had no clue what it was, and on the weekend, on Saturday, this thing arrived, and it was super cool to see it because I had already driven the Losi Truggy, the Tenacity T, and the Tenacity MT is part of that Tenacity family, that 10 platform that we're all so well aware of. And this machine just looks like pure fun, just like that thing did. So I'm really excited to see what this machine is all about, what the differences are. So why don't we just jump right into this thing? All right, so obviously it's got similar box art to the Tenacity T. Hopefully you guys saw that review. Very cool box art stuff. It's got that 50 mile an hour logo here. So I'm excited to see this thing do 50 miles an hour. Just like the Tenacity T, this also has ABC, 4-wheel drive, gear differentials. It comes with the FPV camera mount, so that looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Still haven't set it up in that yet, but it's coming very soon. Promised you guys that video. It's coming, I promise. Let's just go over the rest of the box art here. Actually, there's not much more to really show you guys other than maybe some of the stuff back here. 3800 kV motor, 130 amp speed controller. Waterproof, so all you guys that want to go outside, go mud and stuff like that, this monster truck could do it. They did send me a Reaction 5000 milliamp 11.1 3S LiPo to power this thing. So that's what it looks like from reading the back of the box. That's required to go 50 miles an hour. So definitely going to check out that 50 mile an hour speed. Can't wait to have fun with that. All right, let's dip into this thing. And here it is. Here's how it comes packaged, just so you guys can see what it's all about. We've got the instruction manual here. Looks like the truck's secured there. We've got probably the box with the radio system and some other stuff. It's got the AA's taped to the top here. All right, let me just unleash this monster from the box so we can check it out even closer. Couple of zip ties. Okay, it's out of the box, and there's that monster. Check that machine out. That's looking pretty cool, but like I usually do, want to check out the accessories first. And as I showed you, got some AA's there. Don't need to buy AA's. That's always a bonus. Here has to be the radio system, nothing else. Here is the DX2E. This is the DX2E Active. So if you watch Tenacity T, yeah, I'm probably going to reference that thing a lot. I went over this radio. This is their latest radio system. It allows you to use telemetry system equipment with it, so that's aftermarket. That's an optional purchase, but the radio does allow you to do that. Also has digital trim. You could set endpoints and stuff like that. Great radio system. Only thing I'm not a fan of, I want a foam grip on this Spectrum. Give me a foam grip. Okay, so let's move on to this bag of goodies here. This is probably all the instructions and stuff like that. You guys know you should read the instruction manual, right? Even if you're not new to the hobby, might be some critical information in there that you need to know about the truck. And then we've got a little FPV, looks like an advertisement sheet there. It kind of lets you know what's going on, what you're gonna need to get if you wanna go FPV with it. And then we've got the speedometer. They've got a speedometer dashboard, the dashboard here, and they've got the speedometer itself. Neat little setup. I did do a video on the speedometer. Pretty neat. And because it's in the Losi family, the Losi Spectrum family, setup for this machine is very easy to do to get those speed readings on that. And then in here we've got vine plug in there just in case you need to use that. We've got some additional accessories such as the chip that will allow you to access the battery door. We've got some Allen wrenches, an antenna tube, the motor connectors here that will allow you to hook up that speedometer RPM sensor, so definitely keep that if you want to add that later on down the road. Looks like it's also got a box wrench and then some additional foam pads that you could use to swap out depending on the size of battery that you use in the battery tray. And over here, this is the FPV camera mount, so it does include that, and that's one less thing you have to buy if you do want to go FPV. All right, now let's look at this truck, and I like it. I do like the look of the body. It's a very cool, just kind of simple truck body, monster truck style body. Very cool graphics. I do like red and black. Just something about red and black looks awesome. And of course, it's loaded up with all the different Horizon Hobby brands on there. We've got Dynamite, Spectrum, and of course the Losi, and we've even got Kicker and K&N, some of their partners on there. Now the one thing I did notice while I was taking this thing out of the box, I pulled the body pins off, and I noticed that there is some Velcro also holding the body on here. So you got to pull the Velcro up and then pop the body off, and that just helps keep the body against the chassis. Hopefully keeps a lot of dirt out of there, prevents the body from chattering around and stuff like that. So that's a neat little thing. Not a lot of monster trucks have Velcro to hold the body down. Nice little extra add on there. And here's the chassis itself, and I'm already psyched to see that this is not just an extended Tenacity. This is a new chassis plate we've got here. This is pretty cool. It's got a higher ground clearance in the center, so it is just not a flat plate chassis. Very cool so far. And now what I also like about it is it obviously has the 10 drivetrain in there that we've seen on so many Losi branded vehicles. Came from the TLR platform, the A platform, kind of derived from that. Very good transmission setup, so that's what they're using on this. But like I always do, why don't we break it down from the front, work our way back. I'll tell you about all the different features on the truck. Okay, so starting off at the front, we've got this monster truck style bumper on here. Kind of reminds me of the old LST style front bumper. Has that look to it. But anyway, looks like it's got a pretty good impact setup on there. Should take some pretty good hits. Now let's move on to the suspension. So these shocks here, these are composite body shocks. They're a 12mm bore. So a 12mm bore holds a lot more oil and hopefully should give you a nice plush damping on there. And from experience, the suspension does work well on here. The suspension is derived from the 10 platform, so the arms are well braced. It's got the aluminum inner hinge pin plates with a plastic cap on the front and rear to secure everything. Moving to the outboard, we've got the 10 style caster block and steering knuckle in here. Really good setup, works really well. Pin goes down through to secure the steering knuckle on the caster block. And then another thing I noticed, it does have the fixed plastic links here, so no adjustability on the links. Not quite a big deal on a monster truck. Honestly, I'd rather have fixed links for just bashing around. You don't need adjustability on a basher monster truck. So that's fine. There are plastic links everywhere for the camber, for the toe, and the rear camber as well. All plastic links. No worries there. They are captured on the top, out at the knuckle. The others aren't captured, but it does look like they have a flathead screw there to help prevent any link from popping off the ball. But the suspension, just a little bit of flex there. Not crazy flex. Need a little bit of flex in a monster truck because when this thing starts tumbling and stuff, I'd rather have a little bit of flex than something possibly breaking. The shock tower up front here, that's composite. We've got composite body mounts. They are adjustable, so if you don't like this nice body that comes with the truck, you could probably go find an aftermarket body, just the height if necessary. Now looking down at the gearbox, it is the 10 gearbox there up front. It does have a differential inside, a gear differential inside, grease-filled gear differential with steel ring and pinion, steel outdrives, and then of course steel dog bones. They are a universal drive shaft in there, so they didn't go to dog bones here. Universal's front and actually universal's in the rear. I'm jumping ahead, but universal's in the rear. Nice to see. No upgrades needed there. And then moving back to the steering, it is a dual bell crank steering in here. And just looking in there, I could see there is a servo saver. It does look like a metal drag link as well. The cranks do look really bulky. It's composite bell crank, so looks like there won't be any problems there. And it does look, actually, I can see it from up top here. There is a fixed link here as well that goes from the steering over to the bell cranks. And it's got a plastic servo horn. But before I talk about the electronics, let's talk about this chassis. So that chassis looks pretty cool. We've got these high sides on here, so it'll give it some rigidity. And there's definitely no twist in this chassis whatsoever. And over here you could probably see that the battery box is a little bit different from other vehicles that we're used to. The battery actually loads from the bottom of this thing. So that little chip that I showed you guys in the accessory bag, you turn this little dial right here and it'll pop the battery out from the bottom. There's a little hinge over here. I can see the pin goes in from the side. Now the only thing with this type of setup, and I've mentioned this in some other videos with a similar setup cars, and I don't know if I mentioned the Tenacity video, that sometimes dirt does get caught in here and it makes getting the battery out a little difficult. You gotta snake your fingers up into the battery compartment and push the battery down to pop the door open once you turn that latch. So that's the only downside to this setup. But you know, to the upside, you don't need to remove the body in order to take the battery out. So that's a positive there. All right, flipping back to the other side, the bracing on here is a bit different from what we're used to. So we've got this stubby brace out back here. A lot of the bracing is done inside the chassis to prevent any front to back flex, possibly the dog bones popping out or something like that. But again, this chassis seems super strong. All right, now let's talk about the electronics. How about the electronics? For the speed controller, we have a 130 amp waterproof speed controller. It is a dynamite fuse speed controller. EC3 plug up here, and the switch even has a little boot on there to help protect that. The set button is on the front of the switch, and it is securely mounted to a mounting plate right above the servo, so no two-sided tape, nicely screwed down so you don't have to worry about it popping out. Underneath that, we've got a Spectrum servo, and it is a S605 servo, and I believe that is a metal geared servo. Yeah, I can see some metal gears in there. So that's a metal geared servo. Should give you the torque and durability you need for the Mazda truck. I'm hoping it holds up well. I didn't have any problems with that truck, so hopefully this has all the steering ability we'll need here as well. Then we have the closed receiver box next behind the speed controller, actually inside the receiver box. We've got the AVC receiver from Spectrum. Behind that here, we've got the Dynamite Fuse 3800 kV sensorless brushless motor, and it's nicely mounted here to this metal motor plate, and the metal motor plate actually is also the fixture to secure the center differential. So yes, this does have a center differential in there, which will help distribute power when you're throttling around all your obstacles and jumps and anything else so you're going to jump off of. So that takes care of all that. Dog bones go from the center differential down to the front and rear differentials. And let's see, moving on to the back. So the back here, again, we've got a lot of the stuff that we've seen up front. We've got the composite shock tower, adjustable body mount. We've seen the bumper before. Talked to you guys about the style of hinge pin mounts. And then the arms, of course, are a little bit different in the rear. They're a H arm, and they just support the outer hub, and it actually looks like a nice bulky hub in there. Oversized bearings to support the universals, and then we're out to the tires here. It's a 12mm hex on the end of the axles for the tires, or excuse me, for the wheels, and they've got these really cool gray wheels, and this is just a multi-terrain type of lug tire on here, kind of a firm tire actually, medium to firm compound. Definitely got some inserts in there. Firm inserts, so hopefully when this thing's hitting 50 miles an hour, these wheels don't turn into crazy pizza cutters. But seems, just by the look of it, these look like a good all-terrain type of tire. And I think that really covers all of the features of this. As far as things that are jumping out at me of, what could go wrong or anything, I did go and look at the instruction manual for this car online. I downloaded the PDF. Looked at the differentials, and on the inside of the diff they use 4 gears. The 2 large bevel gears on the inside and the 2 small spider gears. Now my concern there is with the amount of power, the large wheels, that they aren't using 4 of the spider gears. There is the option to go and do that, and I actually found out further testing this vehicle for you guys, because I'm going to come back and do another video on it. I did blow out the 2 spider gears under hard braking on a high traction surface. So I'm going to throw it out there that you may want to go and add the optional spider gears in there and bulk it up just so you don't encounter any problems down the road. Yes, you will absolutely be able to drive this thing out of the box. If you're running on dirt surfaces, I don't really foresee there to be a problem. But if you do want to prevent it, I do want to let you guys know that, just throwing it out there. What I'm going to do, of course, is test it right out of the box to let you guys know what I find. And if that problem does arise, I'm going to let you know. But other than that, this is a cool truck. I mean, I love the look of it. Love the high ground clearance on it. Love the tires. Love the wheels. Body looks cool. Electronics package, pretty dialed. And it's going to go 50 miles an hour. I need to see what this thing does. Let's head outside. Well guys, I am back from a very long and fun day at the BMX track testing the Losi TENACITY MT, and overall I had a great time with the machine. Now actually I drove this truck in 2S power and 3S power, and that's kind of how I want to break down the performance discussion with you guys. I'm going to start off with the 2S power. Now on 2S power, this truck is just a lot of fun. I had a blast just ripping across fields with it, through some rough terrain that I found, and of course going over the jumps at the BMX track and over some of the berms and stuff. It was just so much fun to rip on. Now let me break down the performance like I usually do for you guys. Let's talk about steering first. And you know what, I was a little worried with the harder tires that this truck would have a lot of push, but in 2S power it's just a little bit of push, totally controllable. It steered well within the lanes of the BMX track. What was really fun was just blasting through some of the corners in loose dirt and stuff, and letting the rear just slide around and stuff. It was a lot of fun. So steering was just fine, no issues, durability or anything like that. Moving on to handling, I could definitely tell that this was a monster truck with a higher center of gravity because of that higher chassis. There was a lot more chassis roll in some of the corners, and handling, it was a little on the wild side, and you know, I had to go and flip it over a few times. But overall, the handling was just fine with it. Jumping's pretty awesome. This thing jumps great. It flies over a lot of the jumps. You could control the attitude of the truck in midair with the throttle, but generally it just jumped with a level attitude, and landings were pretty plush. You know, no chassis slopping or anything like that to throw you off. Overall, just a very fun experience on 2S, and I highly recommend doing a lot of running on 2S with it. And it's pretty quick too in 2S, just enough speed to have a great time with the machine. Now on to the 3S testing side of it, and well, I had some issues that I need to talk to you guys about when I was running it on 3S. Now, in the first 30-45 seconds of running it on 3S, I ripped a shock out of the cap. The body ripped right out of the cap, I should say. And I had an oily mess, had to go and fill the shock back up. And actually what I did is I just screwed it back on, and I didn't have a problem after that, which was kind of odd because I was really beating the heck out of this thing. Now onto the handling portion of it, you know, now with more power on there, I spent a lot more time going and flipping this thing over. It spent a lot of time on the roof, you know, because you're just going wild with it. You know, you have 3S power in there, and it was catching the treads a lot more going through the turns, and it would roll over. I would overshoot some of the jumps, you know, so you really need to pay attention when you're driving with 3S. There's just a ton of power in this machine. Yes, it does hit the 50-mile-an-hour advertised speed, so if you want to go fast, you just have to be conscious about driving the truck and being aware of what it's going to do, how it's going to react. So I really beat on this truck in 3S. I put the 12-tooth pinion gear in, and I'm going to talk about that a bit more in just a little bit, but I really beat it up. I didn't have any more durability issues with the shocks or anything else other than the body. This body is trash. I really beat it up. It's cracked over here. It's bent in multiple places. The shocks actually punctured through the rear of the bed. It pulled the body clip out of the bed. So I think it was after 6 runs, it was really mangled, and it's even mangled more now. So that's something to keep in mind, that you might need a new body if you're really thrashing on this thing. But again, the truck is fast. It will launch off of jumps. It will blast through loose dirt and stuff like that. It completely delivers on the action. It is a fun truck overall. Now, there's one thing that I wanted to address, or actually 2 things that I wanted to address with you guys, and I talked about it before, was the internal gears of the differentials. I set out to see if I could get the gears to skip on this like it happened on the truggy, and I only heard 1 click when I was driving full throttle on asphalt during the speed runs. At full throttle, I hit the brakes and I heard a click. Now here it is. It's a heavy monster truck on a high traction surface going 50 miles an hour, and I just grabbed full brake. So that is a lot of stress on the drivetrain, and I did hear a click on there. Nothing broke, but I did hear just 1 click, so that's something to be aware of. If you are going to go and drive this on a high traction surface, be aware that something can happen. This is a off-road truck, so on an off-road surface, there's going to be wheel slip. Your tires are going to slip in dirt. They're going to slip in grass, they're going to slip over rocks, and that's basically the, I guess you could say, like the slipper clutch. You know, it's protecting the drivetrain. Whereas if you're on a high traction surface, you may have problems. So just be aware of that. Now the other thing is, I've seen a few comments that the motor burns up on these things. And on 3S with the 12-tooth pinion, I did not have a problem at all. But I set out to find out why people may have been burning these things up. And I put the 14-tooth pinion back in there. And once I put the 14-tooth pinion in on 3S, within 10 minutes, I burnt up the motor. So those people that are out there saying the motor dies, did you change your pinion gear? That was the only way I could replicate that problem. But Losi warns you in the instruction manual that you need to use the 12-tooth pinion with 3S. So the information's there. Now what's my overall impression of the Losi Tenacity 10 MT? It's a fun truck. It's a cool monster truck. I think I like my truggy a little bit better, but I had a great time with this machine. And if you're really into the look of a monster truck, this thing is going to deliver. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed our review of the Losi Tenacity MT. If you haven't done so yet, please click that subscribe button, the notifications bell, throw the video a like, question or comment about the truck, throw it in the section below. When you have some more time, head over to rcdriver.com.